I forgot the mission. It's kind of like, you know, the whole story of Jonah and the whale, right? Or the Leviathan or whatever swallowed him up. He was given a mission, and then there was a distraction, and it was a whale-sized distraction. And then when it was time to get back to the mission, he was like, "Oh yeah, the mission was not to get out of this whale. That wasn't the mission. The mission was to deliver the message to the people of Nineveh." So, shout out to VeggieTales for the direct remember of that story. So, I forgot the mission while I got distracted by my whale. And so the mission was to deliver the message. And what is the message? Well, on my drive up, I realized that I was listening to songs, some older songs, and once my daughter was like, "You need to pay attention to the road," so I put on some music, and so I was listening to. First, I started with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then I listened to some Fifth Dimension, and then when I was listening to the Earth, Wind, and Fire, I was like, "Wait a minute, what is this song about? What is this about?" And I was just thinking, hey, a lot of these songs actually talk about Bible stories. And I was like, well, this is kind of weird. Why does Boogie Wonderland remind me of the fact that Kava did this dance of forgiveness? Why does that remind me of that? Or like the Fifth Dimension, of course, like they have a song on their first album called The Winds of Heaven. And I was like, the wind is Rahavio. So wait a minute, they got a whole song talking about Rahavio. Wait a second. Hold on. How does this happen? How does this happen? Like these songs have multiple meanings and not just it's just like the Bible. It's just like everything. You can get a meaning out of everything. And so the message I forgot to deliver, I've been delivering a lot of messages, but the one I forgot is the one about all the different ways you can do divination. And these are just, I have a list I'm going to read from, and these are just the ones that they talk about on this list. You can see the Most High in everything. And once I start reading this list, you will understand. But I need to encode it into the ley line, because you know how these people are. They have all this information, and we don't have it, and it's not encoded in the ley line, and so there's no way we can have access to it. So pardon me, I got multiple things I'm holding at once, but I'm gonna get this message out. So, this book is called Manual of Cartomancy. I refer to this, actually, this is the book where I found the term rhabdomancy. Of course, they use it differently, slightly differently, and we might get to that. This particular section is, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 pages long. 8 pages of different divination techniques. And so when people say the only way to the Most High is X, whatever their X is, I've got 8 pages of different methods that you can use to connect with the Most High. That this book is from 1909. Just to be, just so everyone is understanding, it's called a Manual of Cartomancy. The beginning of it talks about divination with cards. It goes into great detail with that particular method, um and the golden wheel. It's very obscure, because wherever they copied this from, they removed all the references to our people, so some of the stuff doesn't make sense because the stuff was meant for our people, and they removed all those references. And so when they're trying to explain stuff and not describe our people, it tends to be that these things don't make any sense. So again, this is from A Manual of Cartomancy. This book is from 1909, and this section is called a supplementary lexicon of the art. And that's why I say whenever you see the term arts, it's magic. It's literally referring to angelic use, using the angels in some way. So people say magic is this, magic is that. You know, change the word from magic to arts. It does it still mean the same thing to you, because they use that, that's the term that they used previously was arts. So eventually I will do that diploma lesson, but I'm going to get a little bit more information before I do that. So let's just read some of these. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to read all of them, time permitting, but let's go through it. This was the message. Shalom, shalom. This was the message I was supposed to deliver. I got distracted by my whale. So the first one is aromancy. And aromancy is the old art of predicting things to come by variations in atmospheric and kindred phenomena. The appearance of a comet, for example, announced the approaching death of some great personage. Auguries were drawn from lightning and thunder, from the forms of clouds, and even ceremonial magic obtained presages by causing the apparition of specters in various regions of the air. So it is a whole art to be able to divine based on air. And now you understand why they spray the skies, because they don't want you to know about this art. Moving on. Alif Alphytomancy, a form of divination by means of barley meal. Now we went from air to barley. I just want y'all to see how these people did it. A form of divination by means of barley meal for the discovery of guilty persons. The accused person was compelled to partake, and would do so if innocent without inconvenience. But in the contrary case, he showed signs of indigestion or choking. We could tell the barley to choke the thief. Do you think they want you to have? That's why they don't want you to cook from scratch, because you can have barley chokes the thief. Ah, Shalom, beloved. Yeah, this is just some other ways of divination. Alluromancy. This is paper pellets inscribed with oracular sentences were placed in a basin of flour and stirred 9 times. The flour then divided among the number of people in search of information. Each recipient applied the oracle which he received to his particular subject of inquiry. Anthropomancy. Ooh, a horrible rite of divination by the inspection of human entrails, usually those of children, sacrificed for the purpose. It is described by Herodotus. So this book is called A Manual of Cartomancy. It's from 1909, and I got it off of Archive, where I get everything. Um, so yeah, they're using anthropomancy. So if you want to know what they take the blood and do something else with it, and then they look at their entrails, and this is okay. We're gonna keep going. A pantomancy. So again, when you see stuff with mancy on the end, and so this was a if you didn't see my rhabdomancy video, this was what originally got me looking for the proper term for using the pendulum, because every art is a mancy. It's got Nancy on the end. Now, I haven't done the deep dive into that yet, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. So when I could not find the Mancy for dowsing, I realized that they were hiding the term. And why would they be hiding the term? So anyway, so now you see where that whole thought process came from. So the next one is a pantomancy, and this is the fortuitous act of extracting presages from the appearance of any object unexpectedly. Yes, yes. Anybody wants the book, I'll send it to them. It's no problem. Um, from the appearance of any object unexpectedly, as for example, a hare or an eagle. A spider seen running or spinning in the morning is promised money, but in the evening, news. A contrary opinion regarded all such occurrences as evil omens. So this is looking uh if you see a object unexpectedly, you are using that to divine stuff. All right, the next one is arithmancy, and this is divination by numbers, so the same as numerology. So the mancy of a numerology is arithmancy, like arithmetic. Anyway, Divination by numbers, more especially in connection with their alphabetical equivalents. There are many modes of this art, and it ranks as an occult science in its more elaborate developments. The next one is aspidomancy, and this is described as an Indian practice, which you know that's us, but as a diviner sits in a circle, recites conjurations, and passes into a kind of ecstasy, it is really a department of ceremonial magic. They don't give a description of that, do they? No. That's probably something that could be using aspidomancy. That kind of sounds like when you do like uh, bufo or mushrooms or entheogens or something like that, or the snake venom, like the person is chanting and then you go into some sort of thing. Anyway, next, astraglomancy, divination by dice, two being used for the purpose. Oh, you mean like in dice games? Each bearing the numbers 1 to 6. They were cast in an ordinary manner. The numbers obtained were translated into letters, when the oracle was obtained by rendering these into words and the words into some kind of sense. To make the process more ceremonial and impressive, a question was written on a paper, and this was passed through the smoke of burning juniper wood. Okay, so you ask the question by consecrating a piece of paper, and then you use the dice to get the answer. So anybody who says cards, the tarot cards. Well, look at this dice. You roll dice. You play Monopoly. That's divination. In case you didn't know. And there's little slips of paper. You don't pass them over incense, but you pass them around the fake money. Anyway, axinomancy. Divination performed with a hatchet to discover hidden treasures. The weapon was held edge upward in the air, and an attempt was made to balance an agate thereon. A stone. You try to balance a stone on a hatchet. If successful, no treasure was in the neighborhood. So if you can balance the agate, there's no treasure. But in the event, it was repeated three. In the other event, it was repeated three times. If the agate rolled the same direction, it was worthwhile to continue the search. But otherwise, the inquirers must go further to discover thieves. Oh, to discover thieves, the handle was held straight up in the air and people danced around it. I was just talking about dancing. When the handle shook so that the axe fell onto the ground, the point of the compass, which the top handle was turned in the direction in which to seek for the guilty person. So whichever way that handle went, that's where you went looking for the guilty person. Okay? Now remember, again, this book is from 1909. These were all well established techniques. These were things that people did. And so the more you read this, oh, let's go. Let me keep going before I say that. The next one is bellomancy, which is divination by arrows on a number of which the possible answers to a given question were written. The darts were drawn at hazard. So basically, you draw the dart, you threw it, whichever piece of paper it landed on, that was your answer. So the next one is, so just a side before I get to the next one. Um, if any of these for any of these to work, there has to be an angel over them. I just want to throw that out there. Because who is answering the question except for your angel, some angel? Somebody's got to be answering the question. So the next one is bibliomancy. For the discovery of sorcerers, the accused person was placed on the side of a pair of scales and a Bible on the other. If he proved lighter, he was held innocent. On the whole, perhaps as good as any other method of testing which used to be employed for the purpose. The Bible was also opened with a gold pen, and a presage was drawn from the word on which it rested. So they opened the Bible. So they would set you on a scale with a Bible, and if the Bible was heavier, you were innocent. If the Bible was lighter, you were guilty. Now, what Bible did they use? The Bible, the 1611 King James, the Bible, the Satanic Bible. Which Bible did they use? So this could go either way. That's really one of those things. Okay, I don't know. You know what? Maybe it wouldn't go either way, no matter which Bible they use, as long as it had Bible on it. Um. Anyway, that's another one. Botanomancy. Botanomancy. Performed by leaves or branches of vervain and heather after the same manner as bellomancy, which is something about something stuff being written on them. So kind of like runes. Presages were also drawn from the scattered leaves of these plants after a high wind. Capnomancy, divination by smoke, obtained by the burning of vervain and other sacred plants. The shapes and directions were taken the subject matter of oracles. So basically, uh, using smoke to do divination. People look at the candles, the color, the way it moves, all of that, well established. Causiomancy, divination by fire. For example, if a combustible object failed to burn, a happy omen was concluded from this object. That's very interesting. Chiromancy. So if you do like a burning ritual, which I would just that's very extreme cases, and the stuff doesn't burn, or for example, like I've lit candles sometimes and they only burn a little bit and that's it. That's this thing. If it doesn't burn, then the message has already been received. You don't have to do it again. That's really cool. Okay, chiromancy, the inspection of lines on the hand, one of the many occult sciences and the subject of many elaborate treatises, both ancient and modern. I also know a lady who does it with nails too, divination. Cled Cledonis Mancy. Cledonis Mancy. Divination by fortuitous words heard on momentous occasions, and its principles precisely similar to apantomancy. So basically, divining by what people say on important occasions. Oh, so that's why they make all this fanfare when the politicians give speeches so that you can divine from their speeches whatever it is you're trying to divine. I don't know. That's weird. So like if you're a recovering conspiracy theorist or Republican Trump supporter like me, you can go back, look at those speeches and see what kind of messages were really being sent and not like, from now, which is very interesting. Okay, Cledomancy, divination by a key for the discovery of theft and murder. The key was placed in a book with the ring outside the book and was tied up. The querent held the key by his finger and placed the ring and whispered the name of a suspected person. If innocent, the key did not stir. But if this was the guilty party, it moved so violently that the string around the book was broken. God dang. Okay. Cosquin Cosquinomancy, a method of discovering theft by means of a sieve placed upon pincers and held by two fingers of each hand only. Suspected names were recited, and he was judged guilty at whose name the sieve shook and turned over. It was serviceable for other misdeeds. So when you were trying to figure out who, I mean, a lot of this stuff is trying to figure out when people were doing stuff they weren't supposed to. If you want to find out who did something, a lot of these things are things you can, look into. Crom neomancy, divination by onions. But this subject, having been mentioned previously, is cited only. This book has a lot of stuff in it. It's cited only to say that the middle period of the 19th century, the method was still practiced by German maidens, and you know who that was, in the hope of ascertaining particulars of their future husbands. And that is in this book. Crystallomancy, divination by means of a crystal, but this is a form of clairvoyance and as such is well known at the present day. So, like crystal ball gazing. Dactylomancy, divination by rings made under certain stellar aspects, but the finger ring lore is too large a subject for record a record in its place. So yeah, when you get into looking at the lore of rings, it is quite huge. I have a book on the lore of jewelry in it, and it is like 600 pages. Uh, Demonomancy, A department of black magic being the evocation of demons and obtaining from them the answers to specific questions. Eromancy, said to be a Persian practice, which you know who that means. A vessel was filled with water. The querent covered his head with a linen cloth and uttered his wishes in a low voice. If the water bubbled, it was a fortunate prognostic. Okay, that's the angel. You're telling the angel of the lemon, lemon, linen, and then the angel of the water is responding. Very interesting. We can think of a few angels that would be affiliated with. Jeloscopy, the curious art of extracting characteristics from laughter, but scarcely a form of divination as the term is understood. Okay. Gyromancy, the ceremony of circumambulating a circle about which letters are traced. This was continued till giddiness ensued and the performers fell to the ground. The letters covered in their fall gave oracles for those who could interpret them concerning future things. So, like Ring Around the Rosies? Yeah. Okay, we're going to keep moving. We're going to get through this whole list. The next one is hippomancy, the extraction of oracles from the neighing of horses. The next one is hydromancy. And if you're just joining me, I'm talking about all the different arts of divination that were well accepted. This book is called A Manual of Cartomancy. It's from 1909. It's 9 whole pages of different ways people did to divine certain things that was well established in 1909 that ended up in this book. Okay. Hydromancy, the prediction of things to come by means of water. And this, there were many, and of this, sorry, there were many forms, of which I will mention one. A vessel was filled with water, and a ring suspended over it by means of a thread. This ring was caused to strike the sides of the basin in a certain number of time, and presages were drawn from the movements caused in the water. Ichthyomancy, divination by the entrails of fish. I did okay. Lampodomancy, the extraction of prognostics from the form, color, and various movements of the light of a lamp. Sparks from the wick meant news. That's when you had real lamps. Libanomancy, divination by incense, accompanied by prayers relative to the question at issue. The incense was cast upon fire, and the smoke carried the prayers to heaven. If they were granted, the fire consumed the incense, but if not, as it had to be cast at hazard, the incense either fell away or was not consumed. For some obscure reason, this practice was void in respect of death and marriage. So you could use it for anything except for death and marriage. It's not obscure reason, it's because you're dealing with fire and anyway, it's the angels over that. Okay, Myomancy, the divination by rats and mice, other variety of apanthomancy with special reference to the cries of these creatures. Oh goodness. Oculomancy, the art of identifying a thief by the turn of his eye, said to have been accompanied by certain superstitious ceremonies. So when your grandma said, "I can see it in your eyes," that was oculomancy. Oe enomancy is a enomancy. Enomancy. Divination by wine, with special reference to the color observed when drinking it and to any other circumstances from which the interpretation could be derived. Omphalomancy, divination by the navel of a newborn first children to ascertain what the future conceptions awaited for the mother. It was determined by the number of markings or bands. Onomancy, divination by names, but enough has been said on the subject in earlier sections. There were, however, several methods. So that's why? Because your name is literally a name of the Most High. So, ooh, that's probably why our dead names are in capital letters because those are the names that are the names of the Most High, and of course they killed. the government killed the Most High, and in their minds, and when they have us like that, so I'm sure that's related to that. Oomancy. Oomancy. Divination by the outer and inner forms of eggs. The most impenetrable secrets of the future were said to yield their mysteries to this process. A modern method is to break an egg slowly into the glass of water, and the shapes assumed by the white part are supposed to furnish presages. Ophiomancy. Divination by the movement of serpents, which that probably has to do with the druid egg thing. Okay, let me hurry up. Orthinomancy, divination by the flight, songs, and cries of birds. I do not think the laws of this art have come down to us, meaning it's something we don't even know. Pegomancy, divination by springs of water, performed by droppings of stones therein, observing their movements. Philordomancy, divination by rose leaves, which were said to crack clack in the hands and sound resulting was interpreted. Psychomancy, divination by spirits, but especially the spirits of dead and therefore a departed the department of ceremonial magic on its worst side. Pyromancy, divination by fire with the help of some ground pitch cast thereon. If it lighted quickly, there was favorable augury. Rhabdomancy, the ancient form of divination by staves, which is not mentioned by Ezekiel and Hosea. A staff was chosen, peeled on one side. It was then thrown in the air, and if on falling to the ground, the peeled side was uppermost, but the reverse on the second trial. This was a happy omen. So they're talking about kind of like runes again. Sciomancy, another variety of necromantic art, but especially concerning the evocation of astral reflections to ascertain future things. So there's your mummial magic. Sideromancy, divination with a red hot iron on which some kind of spangles were cast and were said to give star-like reflections in burning. Psychomancy, divination by leaves of a fig tree on which questions were written. If the leaves dried quickly, it was a bad omen. And the contrary in the alternative case. I don't know why they talk like that. Tephromancy, divination by the cinders of a fire which had consumed a sacrificial victim. Theomancy, a part of the Jewish Kabbalah, being a study of mysteries resident in divine names. It was held to be the highest of all the practical sciences. Practical sciences. Wait, I thought these were arts. Anyway, get the drop on that. Arising out of the secret wisdom of Israel, which is our people. Tyromancy, divination by cheese, but of this art I have found no particulars. Sure. Silomancy. This is the last one. Divination by the help of pieces of dry wood found on the road. Also by the casual arrangement of sticks of firewood and the way in which they burn. So, oh, drop the phone. I want to put this down. So now I've just read off a whole list, 8 pages worth the mancies of different divination techniques. So people who, for whatever reason, think that and this didn't even go into ceremonial magic, and now that's a whole nother avenue for research that I'll probably get into later. But so these people, and he didn't even mention tarot without even mentioning tarot. There's a whole list of divination techniques that you don't know. Number one. Number two, these Gentiles have been using against us. You best believe that. The nursery rhymes, I mean, uh spinning a stick and making it fall, and the whole dancing and all this, that they've been using all of this stuff, all of it. This book is from 1909. These things were well established, and that's why he put it in the book, because people knew about them. Even the one, oh, we're not going to talk about what the cheese one means. Ooh, ah, sorry, I keep trying to move my hands. We're not going to talk about what the cheese one means. Well, now maybe you understand charcuterie board. So when people pick the cheese up off the board and they're like, "Oh, let's look and see what this thing means, and if this person picks it up in this order." And so you don't know. You really don't know. That's just what's in this book. I mean, This is like a general overview. So there's so many different divination techniques, and the whole thing is you have to find what works for you. That's the message. Like, find a divination technique that works for you and become a master of it, whatever it may be. If your thing is looking at the sky and seeing the cloud formations, become a master of that. 9 times out of 10, there's a book on that. Once you find out what the mancy is, you can look that up on archive and you can find something on that. That's the same thing with me and the pendulum. I was looking for an answer. There's answers. So the Most High gave us all the information is here. Even if you just look at books you don't have to check out, just look at the books that are from the 1800s. All the information we need is here. It's available. But the problem is that there's not enough people looking for answers. I mean, I can't look for every single answer. Everybody's got to find their own answers. So that way when people are trying to refer to certain things, the information is out there. Somebody doesn't have to go and do the research like me. If I know a brother or whoever, somebody already gave the information that I feel is legitimate. I'm not going to redo their information. I'm just going to say, look, go check out this brother. This is where I saw the video, so on and so forth. The YouTube is a treasure trove of information on particular subjects. You just have to know how to interpret those subjects, and you have to ask the questions. So if you're not asking questions, number one, find the divination technique that you like. If you want to stick to the Bible, then go with the divine names. Look, see where the divine names. It's a whole book, the book of sacred names. You could just research that book and correlate it with the Bible. And not just the Old Testament, because the problem with the Jewish quote unquote the Jewish Kabbalah is that they don't recognize the New Testament. And so you could be tying it to the New Testament in different places. There's a lot of work to be done amongst our people, just amongst the stuff that we have access to. But when people aren't passionate about whatever it is, and they're not out here doing the research, then it's very, very difficult. I'm not really a I don't really like to deep dive into subjects because, um, first of all, I think it's like boring because once you get to the answer, just keep digging to find correlating information. It's like, no, once I'm assured that this is the answer, I'm just going to stop researching. But there are other people who can deep dive into this stuff for their whole lives, like there's people like that. So, what you want to do is find out whatever it is your divination technique is going to be and deep dive into it. Uh, find the practical, find the historical, find the whatever. I mean, and then throw it out there. Put it, it's easy to make a little video or, write something up, send it, over to Levi or me or what. I don't have a website that I really use like that, but if you have research that you really want to put out there, I'll put a link and throw it on my website just so it can be out there. The point of the matter is we all have to do part of the research. Everybody, you can't just be waiting on someone to bring the information to you. You have to find whatever it is you're interested in and go out and do some work. And it's the message that nobody wants to hear because it's really easy to say, oh, look, we got this book. We're going to read this book and we'll understand how to use it. That's not how it works. Encoding it on a ley line is one thing when you put it onto the internet. It is a totally different thing finding out from your angel how you are supposed to use that information. That's just like I have a technique for using see me, what I do is I ask, can I share this technique? Is a technique that can be, once I feel like I have a semi mastery over it, then I ask to share it. But the whole thing with that is I'm doing the work experimenting, trying to figure out if this is going to work for somebody else or not. And I'm contributing, in the best way that I can. And so we need everybody to be doing that. If somebody has something that, especially like with the incense and the angels, all that stuff, everybody can be. This could be crowdsourced. The Most High is not going to come back and give us everything. In a lot of ways we're going to have to take it. And part of that taking it is literally going out, doing the research and doing the work. And if more people would do that, It doesn't have to be like 1,000 people doing it, but if it's just more people doing it, people putting an effort into it, if you're not out there doing research, at least the practical applications. When we got the Clavicula Salomonis, I still was really new. I went out and I was like, oh, I want to figure out how this thing works and set my tables and this and that. And before I can set a table in like 5 seconds now. Shalom, beloved. I can set a table in like 5 seconds now. You know what I mean? Like 5 minutes, I can have the whole table set. But you can only do that once you practice. That's why we're all students. I mean, none of us is experts at this. I'm not an expert by any means. But what I am trying to do is learn. I'm putting the same amount of energy I put into 12, 16, 19. Well, yeah, basically like 30 some years of education from kindergarten all the way through graduate. I'm putting in the same amount of effort to learn the same way I did when I was in school because I'm still a student. I have a lot to learn. Nobody has come and given me some, outrageous crazy drop of information or whatever. I have to go out there and learn every little thing the hard way. Like read a book, go and ask the angels, figure out what's going on, you know what I mean? So it's not no easy thing, but the whole thing about it is I'm making an effort and everybody has to make their effort. But I highly recommend everybody find a divination technique that works for them. Literally everybody had a pendulum. I mean, that is just like that should just be one of your basic tools in your arsenal is to learn how to work with a pendulum. That thing comes in handy way, way, way more than you think. You know, and then find a couple other things because again, like I always say, it's about the tools in your toolbox. You don't want to you this is I think Zig Ziglar said that you can cut down a tree with a butter knife, but it's going to take you about 8 weeks. Whereas if you had a high speed, high powered um uh diesel saw, chainsaw, that thing will be done in about 8 seconds. So it's not that the butter knife won't work. It's not that prayer alone or waiting for the angels alone doesn't work because it does work. It does. But if you want to be a friend of the Most High, sometimes you need answers fast, and sometimes you can't get the answers encoded to you fast enough because remember, this is a processing thing. So think about a computer. If you have an old computer, I hate to use that example, that's the only one I can think of. If you have an old computer and you're trying to get it to run off some new software, it's gonna be like, no, we don't do that software over here. You're gonna have to downgrade that software to a level that I can process it. And so you can upgrade your own processing capabilities, upgrade yourself to your own new system by learning different techniques for communicating with the Most High and the angels and everyone else. Because guess what? That's the fastest, the most what do you call it? Detailed, uh not detailed, um the fastest system of communication on the planet in the solar system is the enzyme network, is the mycelium network. That's the fastest way of communicating. So any way you can get into contact with that system because it's connected to the Akashic records, it's connected everywhere. It's the most in detailed system that's available. So whatever you can do to get tapped into that system is what you should be looking for some way to get into that system. And I know that it's one of those things that's like people don't want to hear it because it's really comfortable and it's really easy to read a bunch of books and not go and do anything. But if you're going to read books, at least do like some sort of divination attached to it, like flip through the book, ask a question, open the page, and see what happens. Shavi Zane does that, and I was like, wow, I never even thought about that. That's a really good idea. We could be doing that too. So at least if you're going to do it, ask a question. See, because another part of it is when you use divination techniques, you're asking questions. If you're not asking questions, you're just absorbing information. How are you going to solve your problems? Your problems are questions. I have this problem. How do I solve this problem? And if you're not looking, if you don't ask, you won't be answered. If you don't seek, you won't find. If you don't knock, the door won't be open. You have to take the action. So that was the message I forgot, is that it's a lot of action that we need to take. And because people are still hung up on this terminology, when again he just called those arts. Those are arts. That's high science. So you're getting caught up on someone call you a witch or whatever when they don't even understand that that's the high science. That's the high arts, not whatever it is they're looking at. Somebody did a painting, which I'm surrounded by all this beautiful artwork here, but you that's the high arts is the ability to um, have the divine run through you to deliver a message. That's the high arts. That's the high science. And we have to um, reconsider the way that we think about things. So, you can automatically ask and it will be given. You can automatically assume that people don't know what they're talking about if they're not talking about like astrology. You know what I mean? Like, how is it that or astronomy. Those are scientific names, especially astrology. That's a astronomy. That's a scientific name. You mean to tell me looking at something from a scientific matter it is using the devil? Like I just we have to break the conditioning of whatever the name that people want to put on stuff because to be honest, the most high has more names than we could ever know and every name has power. Your own name has power in the name of the most high. That's why the government gives you a dead name, and you have to regain your power by assuming a living name. So imagine that. I mean, that's a whole nother level of inquiry that I'm probably going to get into because now I'm thinking about this whole process. Like we have a lot of rewiring in our brain to do to understand how things work. So not only do we have the name of the Most High that we can call upon, we need to understand that our names are in our if our names are written in the book of life, especially our people, maybe not everybody, but especially our people, if our names are written in the book of life, that's a word of power. So if somebody calls your name, and maybe that's why our people always use nicknames. Because I can never understand, like, I'm going to call somebody by their real name. Like, I'm not going to call them by a nickname. I never understood that. But a lot, especially people in the country, they never called you by your real name. If they called you by your real name, that was a serious, your grandmama called you by your first, middle, whole government name. That was serious. You was in some type of trouble. And so maybe that we have to really look at things and consider why. We know the how of a lot of things, but until we are really seeking the why of a lot of things, we're going to continue to have people tell us what we can and can't do. We really have to look at why things are the way that they are. Like the sister pointed out to me that Brother Remedy has a video that he took from TikTok where they talk about how all the trees, most of the trees in America are males and they produce all of this pollen. And so we have to really look at, we know how they did it. They dug up the trees and they replaced them with male trees. But we have to look at why they did it, and then we have to have a course of action for correcting it. So the best course of action that you can do is around your house plant female trees. I mean, that's a very simple solution. Wherever you are, wherever you go, if you get seeds, we have small plants, plant females. Don't plant males. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of male trees everywhere. Plant female trees. If you know you got male trees in your yard, plant female trees beside them. You know what I mean? Like so that they can produce fruit. because only female trees produce fruit. Male trees don't produce fruit. So that's like at my great grandmother's house that there's like, I don't know, probably 100-foot tall walnut trees, and it's a lot of them. Like if I could figure out how to do that whole process, I could have walnuts for the whole season. I mean, they fall to the ground too, but it's just like, again, it's just one of those things. We have a lot of whys to ask, and there's nothing wrong with asking why. You have to really you have to just really reprogram yourself to ask the proper questions and to make sure that you are doing what you can to contribute. And if you can't, it doesn't have to be information that you contribute, like I just said about the female tree thing. I mean, the male tree thing, just grow some female trees from seed, because if when you grow something from seed, it's going to be male or female. When you It's like, I'm not trying to teach a lesson on trees right now, but I will say this: a lot of times when you buy a tree from the nursery, it's a tree that's been grafted onto another tree. So it's a male tree which grows faster that has female tree parts grafted onto it. So you have a hermaphrodite tree. Instead, just throw some seeds out, grow stuff from seeds and see what happens, as opposed to the Gentiles method of whatever it is they do what you do differently. And then that's where you bring in that information on the condenser fluid, the electromagnetic stuff, and the different angels and all of that. And you have that's a type of alchemy too. So I know that a lot of people are focusing on, like, you know certain kinds of alchemy, but being able to draw all this information from different places and put it together, that's a spiritual alchemy. That's not People aren't really putting all this stuff together. When people ask for cohesive answers, they're not really being able to give a 360 cohesive answer. So that could be just one thing that you are able to do. Give a 360 cohesive answer about something. When somebody asks me, I try and think of each part of it. And when I give an answer, it's the most cohesive answer I can get that makes sense. And that's something that we can start to do. So if somebody says, well, tarot cards are this, and I would just look at them and say, okay, well, how did people according to your science, how did people communicate before there were words? Maybe it was pictures. So is it a possibility that these pictures are what's left over from how people communicated when they didn't have words? That's it. I mean, that you could that's a mic drop. You just walk away. Even with the pendulum. So I was like, "Oh, well, who are you talking to?" I said, "Well, do you make it regular habit to communicate with demons? Because I don't. So I know I'm not talking to demons because I don't actually communicate with demons. So, and I'm not doing anything to invite demons around me. And also, I have a lot of protection. So, why would a demon want to come and run my pendulum? Does that even make sense? They don't have an answer. There's no answer for that, because all it takes is a cohesive answer or a cohesive question that will get them to leave you alone. So either they just have to, like, well, what about this? Well, I mean, I don't. You don't have to do it. You do what you want to do, but you're gonna have to think about what I just said. If you see demons everywhere, that means you regularly communicate with demons. I do not have any contact with any demons for any reason. I call them to go and do their thing and leave me alone. Now, if you have regular constant contact with demons, that's what you gonna have. Not me, because I don't have that regular constant contact with no demons. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thought process. And so I'm going to reject that. Just me. You can once you know what you know, you can reject their statements. You can be like, "Oh, I reject that." I used to say that, not I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I would say that all the time. I mean, people would say something. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. We would say it as a joke, but it's true. Somebody say, "Oh, you're gonna have another baby." I rebuke that demon in the name of Jesus. I don't need no more kids right now. Look at this one right here is a monster. No, 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 no. I say that about all my kids. No, no, no. Look at the size of that. that child. Now I don't need no more. I rebuke that. You know what I mean? We have to start, being doing stuff like that, and we can make it. We don't have to be so like uptight about it. I think we also need to find a way to make stuff fun. I mean, this stuff doesn't have to be so dreary and draining all the time. Like I just read a list of a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do. You can prepare some barley, sit down, give it to everybody as a side dish for dinner, and start asking questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Right before they take their bite, see what happens. If you want to know if your kids are lying about this, lying about that, you prepare some barley and you say, "Look, I'm gonna give this to everybody for dinner. I want to know who's telling the truth about this and that." And they start eating. You watch them take a bite. And you say, "Oh, what about this?" Your husband start choking when you ask about that coworker. Hey, that barley just gave you a message. Ah, I can only imagine, yo, I can only imagine what our people were doing because these fools don't want you to have salt because you could do the same thing with the salt. Remember, Levi said, "Don't use this salt in all your foods. You're going to kill somebody." It's with everything. It's not just salt. It's everything. You can, and instead of wondering who is doing right and who is doing wrong, you get him food some food, and you ask the question. You encode into that food, the answer that you want to have. And so we don't this doesn't have to be so serious. This could be like a very fun occurrence for us if we look at it like that. I mean, you don't have to use it for serious things, but it would just be like an ongoing, it could be an ongoing joke. You know what I mean? Like instead of making everything so heavy, and this is very serious information. Nobody's going to deny that. But we don't want to make it so serious that it's unattainable for someone else. So that's why I say find your divination technique. Try different ones that seem appropriate. Ask your angels, which ones maybe you should look into, and just give it a try. See what happens. I mean, my kids won't eat barley, so that won't work for me, but maybe I could do it with rice. They eat rice every single day. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is, all my kids don't really lie. I mean, I don't have really have that problem yet, so it's not really that serious. But I'm just saying, like you want to have but it could be that you're having people over for food, and you need to get some answers out of them. So you want to have multiple tools in the toolbox for whatever is coming up. And maybe this is not as exciting as dealing with the giant whale, that's right in front of you. But once you have the whale of your situation dealt with, you still have to deliver the message. And so this is just the message I was supposed to deliver like a long time ago. And then I got reminded of it on the drive up with the whole, music thing, and having to rethink a lot of these older songs, and especially the ones with live music, and figuring out, because if there's an angel over lyrics, writing, music, all that stuff. So, what message is the angel trying to deliver to you through that music? You have to go back and really rethink about a lot of stuff. And a lot of stuff I, had put down, I probably need to go back at least listen to it, because these demons don't have control over the music. They may have some control over the video, like the visual aspects of it, um, in certain respects, but I don't think they really have all they can do is manipulate it. All they can do is insinuate it. This makes me think of the WAP video, right? Where, I can see how, like, maybe they were able to corrupt the lyrics or whatever, but you still have at the end, when I think of the video, I still think of two black women. Oh, let's just say two black women. I still think of two black women dressed to the nines in a castle. They can't take that imagery away. So they can mess with the stuff around the periphery. But when you get to the main point of the video, you have two black women wandering around a huge castle. How would you interpret that? I mean, if you take all the other symbology they try to throw in there, and get rid of it, and you just look at the fact that you have two black women roaming around a huge castle. Is that like Black women taking over the castle? Like, is that the message that we're going to have to be in charge? It was only two. It probably should have been three. That's a whole nother thing. But you know what I mean? Like, you start to say, well, wait a second. What was the message I was supposed to get from that? I gotta go back and reconsider, like, even some of my favorite songs from the 90s. Like, let me re-listen to this song. I bet I get a totally different message now that I can connect with the angel of the lyrics and all of that. I can get a totally different message than I did before. So I just want to throw that out there to everybody. I'm going to you know, let y'all marinate on that. So, to the spirits who are here with us, you're invited to go in peace. To my beloved viewers, you're invited to be at peace. And always remember, the Most High is your peace. Shalom.